Yes, sir. Welcome to another episode of Razorback Therapy. And tonight we got a very special guest that really needs no introduction, especially with Razorback Nation. That is our boy, the one and only Hog legend, one of the greatest players in Razorback history. I know I'm really hyping you, bro, but it's our boy, Ryan Mallett. Ryan, what's good, man? Appreciate you being here.
Hey, what's going on? I'm glad you guys had me on.
Absolutely. And let me correct myself. Welcome, Coach Ryan Mallett. That's very important now. It ain't just Ryan Mallett, the player. This is Coach Ryan Mallett.
Oh, actually, one more correction. It's actually now head coach Ryan Mallett.
Oh man,
what's up, man? Dude, I ain't seen you since my 40th birthday, man. I miss you, brother.
I know, man. I've been working. I've been busy. I ain't had much time to do much.
That's good, man. Well, there's a lot of people up here in North Arkansas pulling for you, brother. So, and that's one of the things I wish people would realize just right off the bat, man, is just outside of football, even what a cool, just decent human you are, man. Like you're just, this show, man, we really pride ourselves on being for the everyday Hog fan. And I think what's one of the cool things about you as a player, man, is you are a fans player.
Yeah, I love the fans.
And man, I just,
especially in Arkansas, it's the greatest fan base in the nation, I believe. I mean, there's only one Hall,
No doubt.
One Hall.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
And I mean, obviously, you're still a fan of the Hogs, even in your post-playing career and going into coaching and doing all those things, staying in the state. I mean, talk about that. You still follow the Hogs pretty closely weekend to weekend?
Oh, big time. Even if we're working, we'll try to have the game on in the background while we're working, or at least we did last year. And I promise you we will this year. You try to keep up with those guys.
Yeah.
We love to see the way the program's going, and it's getting back to where it was kind of when I was there, a little bit after that. So it's good to see that, especially growing up a Hog fan. You always want the Hogs to win. So it's been cool to watch these past few years, and some of the players come through and the coaches that we got. We have a really great staff, so it's been fun to watch.
Let me ask you this, now that we're kind of on here, obviously when you were there with Coach Petrino, and we all know what y'all did, and then you've kind of stayed close enough to the program during the Bielema, Morris, now Pittman era. Talk about some of the differences and similarities you've seen to your knowledge or whatever. I mean, I remember for sure with Morris, you were at the practices. I know with Pittman, you're at the practices. Obviously, Bielema was probably more difficult because you were playing there,
right, yeah.
On an NFL team. But even if it's just from those two coaches, like what are some of the differences you've seen going back to when you were there as a player to even just comparing and contrasting as an onlooker, as a coach, and what you've seen?
Well, I think we've had a little more success in the past few years just because of how Coach Pittman treats his guys and how I think he's just a super genuine dude. Every time I've talked to him and even his staff, they've all been they've been amazing. They treat the kids, like they should be treated. There's no, that's a big thing, especially for a player, especially in college, man. There's so many things going on. You're still trying to find yourself. You're trying to figure out like what it takes to be successful at that level. And I think they've done a really good job of developing those guys and helping them understand what it takes.
And Coach Pittman seems to have a really good pulse with the alum and like former players. I mean, how has that been as far as just your relationship with the program as a high school coach and former player?
Well, I can tell you this: when Coach Pittman got hired, I talked to Travis Swanson, who was one of my centers in college, and he said, "Yeah, that's the guy that we got it right this time." Because he played for him after I was gone, after Coach Petrino was gone. He played for him. He said, "That's the guy right there." And I said, "You know what? I believe it because I've seen you with some other coaches, so I know what you mean."
Yeah, actually, I think he was a part of that group that like wrote a letter like on behalf of Coach Pittman to get him hired. Because, at the time he's O-line coach at Georgia. People aren't necessarily looking at him as a head coach or, head coach material. And there was a cohort of former players that were like, no, this is the dude. And I think, wasn't he one of those guys?
Yeah, I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was because everybody I talked to that played for him loved him. And I think that goes to show you what kind of coach he is. He really cares about these guys. It's not just, win me games. Like it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about the sort of the mindset that he brings to the Razorbacks? So, there's not a whole lot of former offensive line coaches, that go on to be head coaches.
Well, I tell you, speaking of that, I mean, he's done a great job surrounding himself with, coordinators and position coaches. And, people want to work for him, I mean, I think Odom could have left, Browse could have left if he wanted to, but I think they really enjoy working for him. And, that right now it looks like they're well oiled. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see them this fall for sure.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so let's back up then. Let's get back to let's talk about Ryan Mallett, the player, and then we'll get to Ryan Mallett, the coach. Most people know your story, especially Razorback fans. I mean, you did probably a million Rivals interviews when you were in high school. You did all kinds of interviews while you were a player on the Hill. Now, even since you've been on different podcasts and things of that nature, I think everyone knows how highly sought after you were in high school as a quarterback. You've already dispelled the rumor that you didn't go to Arkansas originally because they were going to make you a tight end and all that. Because I was going to ask about that as well, but true. I looked, I said, he already talked about how that wasn't true. Yeah. So, at a camp, I guess someone saw you running a route at a camp or something and decided to run away with that on a message board or whatever. So anyway.
I think my dad, or somebody, my head coach in high school called my dad because I'd been at that camp, a million times. It's like, all right, same drill. It's like, I want to do something different. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go catch some balls, Coach Nutt. He's like, all right, whatever you want to do.
Well, so we don't need to just rehash all of that info. But what I do want to know is, there's a statistic that states only 2% of high school athletes go on to play at the Division I level. You're obviously in a smaller margin because you played at the highest level. Was there a moment growing up, elementary, middle, high school, on the field, off the field, where you had like that validating feeling that you were going to be in that 2%?
Well, I'll say it like this. So growing up, that was my whole goal. So my mindset was like, that's what I'm going to do. Now it really got real my freshman year in high school. I started in the state semifinals of the playoffs at Texas Stadium. We ended up getting beat, at the last second. But I guess it was the next Monday. I don't even think we're in school. I get a call from my quarterbacks coach. He said, hey, come up here. So I went up there and he has like 4 different letters. And he's like, here are these years. And it was 4 scholarship offers just off that one game. So I was like, okay, yeah, I know I can do it now for sure.
And then, of course, you were a multi-sport athlete in high school, if I remember correctly, right?
Basketball.
What all did you play?
Basketball, just basketball and football.
And I think that's important, especially as being a high school coach now, being in an age where kids just want to specialize on one thing. I mean, are you an advocate for a kid playing everything and competing year round as much as possible? I mean, anything you want to say on that?
I mean, I will never tell my kids, hey, you can only play football. I won't do it. First of all, in high school, you're kids, and you want to represent for your school. You want to play for your school. And second of all, as a football coach, all these different movements they're doing on a baseball diamond or they're doing on a basketball court or they're, running track, it's making them a better athlete. It's giving them different kind of movements besides just the football movements. So to me, it kind of helps a little bit of everything from, if they play everything or play different sports instead of just one, I think you get a little different. First, the movement styles, you get a little different conditioning. So your body is reacting in a different way than just to train for football.
So then you're kind of getting back to you playing through high school. You had that moment, started the state semifinals a freshman, immediately get some offers. I'm sure confidence is through the roof. You've shared before, there was a lot, as we all remember as Razorback fans, there was a lot happening on the Hill during that window of time. And if I remember correctly, you committed to Michigan pretty early,
my
right?
junior year.
Or at least
the summer of my junior year.
Okay. And then did you play against RG3?
Yeah, that's who put
before he was RG3.
He put me out in the state semifinals my senior year. We couldn't catch him.
Oh.
So I wasn't on defense. We all know that because I wasn't gonna catch him regardless. I wasn't gonna catch him either.
Now, when you were watching him play, did you think, okay, that dude's a future Heisman? Did he have that?
I mean, we knew he was already in the Junior Olympics running the 300-meter hurdle, so we knew he was fast. I mean, on film in high school, I don't really remember because I didn't watch the offense for them, but I knew he had a big play potential. I mean, to shut the game out, they faked the lead and he kept it around the end and just outran everybody for 3 straight plays in ball game.
God.
It was ridiculous, man.
So
Our defense was pretty good. We didn't have anybody that was slower than a 4.7 on our defense.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's no slouch.
No.
So do you ever get with Kendall Browse and be like, yo, your boy RG3 bounced me out my senior year in high school? Like,
I forgot.
what's up with that?
I forgot about that connection. Honestly, I really did. I like KB. KB's a good dude. Every time I'm up on the hill and I'm up at a game or like a practice like this spring, I'll go holler at him. But I really like what he does. Now I have a little bit different philosophy as far as offense, but
Well, but I also hear with him, like, he's just phenomenal. Kind of like you were saying about Pittman, just building some rapport with players and building those relationships. I talked to one of his college teammates, because when he came out of high school, he went to Texas.
Right.
And I talked to one of his teammates and told me kind of a funny story about he'd be in the locker room, like, rapping Outkast, like, word for word. So he's not surprised now as he's gone up the coaching ranks that he's able to connect with athletes. But anyways, we can keep it moving. So you commit to Michigan. You play your true freshman year there. I'm going to ask what your memorable moments are, but something I think people forget about, like, you balled out some that freshman year. Like, didn't you light up Notre Dame?
Yeah. That was personal.
I mean, I don't want to. Well, tell us about it.
That was my second start. I think the week before we played Penn State, and they had a really good defense at that time. I can't remember that linebacker's name, but he what was his name? I can't remember. Anyway, really good player, and I took a pretty good shot that game, and we ended up pulling off 14-7. The next week, Notre Dame's coming to town. It was already a rivalry within that game, like within that rivalry going on, because we had two freshman quarterbacks starting that knew each other pretty well. And so, defense played really well. I think we ended up winning like either 35-7, 42-7, I don't know, something like that. But that was big.
Yeah.
That was a fun game to play.
Oh, yeah. I'll bet it was a blowout. Like, did you expect when you went off to Michigan that you were going to play as much as you ended up playing that true freshman year?
Not really my freshman year, because Henny had been there. He'd been a 3 or 4 year starter. He ends up getting banged up against Oregon the second game. I was ready to go. I had to step in there and play and fill in, and I think I did a pretty good job. Then he comes back, and it was kind of. I had to be ready at all times, because if he took a shot, because he had a pretty banged up shoulder, if he took a shot, he was going to have to come out for a second, because he had a pretty good injury. So, I always had to be ready, prepared, just like the starter. Just like as a backup should, and be ready to go.
Right. Yeah, it's probably like the opposite, because I just remembered another thing about that season wasn't that the Appalachian State year?
It was. I was supposed to be my first game action in the second half.
I'm sitting there thinking, like, you're probably coming in thinking, okay, I'm gonna get some second half, work against Appalachian.
That was the plan.
Not being the starter for Notre Dame. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny how all that.
Yeah, it was weird.
Funny how all that worked out.
No, so that game was crazy. They blocked that field goal at the end. It was just like, what just happened? I just remember walking back to the dorm, like, after the game. I'm just like, what just happened? Because I think
Toby, you remember that
one? We
came
in like preseason in the top 5, I believe, because the year before they were like 11-1, maybe 12-1, something like that. And so I'm just like, whoa, what's going on right now?
Is there anything else just from that season that just is a memorable thing that, when you reflect on your playing career and that time at Michigan that
I did set
still?
the longest touchdown pass for University of Michigan. I don't know if it's been broken yet, but I set that against Wisconsin. So that's one thing I won't forget. I threw it to Mario Manningham down the sideline on cover 2, little hole shot. He beat the safety and he's off to the races. So he did all the work, but I just got it to him.
Yeah, you had to get it to him on a dime so he could get there.
So that's a living testament to sort of that next man up mentality. We teach the kids nowadays, you're always a play away. Do you sort of instill that now into your players as a head coach?
You got to, and I think just from the experience I've had with it, it's hard for especially a high school kid to understand that. It just is. But once you get a kid to understand, like, hey man, you might not be playing right now, but he might get banged up in the first quarter. You got to go in. You got to know what's going on. We can't just fall off another level just because you haven't been doing your job and, studying the game plan for the week. So, that next man mentality it's crucial. It's crucial, especially at the high school level. And then you get to college, you never know. I think it was Alabama. It was this past season had 2 receivers hurt. And I remember hearing their coach talk about, those guys that were behind them, just they weren't ready. They weren't prepared because they didn't think they was going to get in as much.
Right. Well, speaking of next man up, that kind of transitions to the next coach up too is another thing you got to be ready for at the college level with how much turnover happens at the head coaching ranks. And I'm just amazed at like the perfect storm of what ended up leading you back to the hill, or to the hill, I should say. Coach Carr retires. Rich Rod comes in. Did he ever try to sell you on playing in the spread option, or was he ever going to try and manipulate his offense to fit what you did well? Like, was there ever any conversations there?
The only conversation I remember having with him it was right after his introductory press conference or something. And I was walking through Schembecker Hall because I was going to talk to him. I was looking for him. I was going to, because that was the first question I was going to get asked is, what's about to happen?
Right.
See, now the thing I did before that though was I'd already got my transfer papers signed, so I didn't get stuck there. And then so I see him. I introduced myself. I was like, "Can I talk to you for a second?" So we step in the team meeting room for 5 minutes, and he goes, "Yeah, I've seen you play. You're not a statue." And I just, this man's never seen me play a day of his life. So I was like, "Coach," shook his hand. It was great to meet you. I appreciate it. I showed him the papers. I said, "My car's packed. I'm hitting the road," and I left that day.
I just always wondered if he had Pat White up there on the projector talking about, now Ryan, listen, this is.
I mean, it was a really short conversation though. It was very short.
And then of course, in that time, Nutt resigns, Coach Petrino gets hired, who it's all like, could you have landed in a more tailor-made offense for your skill set at that time? Not just at that time, but to be developed than what Coach Petrino was bringing to Arkansas?
Oh, definitely. I think that was one of the first selling points. I was actually on the way back from Michigan, and I had been talking to Coach Horton, who was there at the time, who was the running back coach while I was there.
Yep.
And then Brandon Allen's dad, Coach Allen, was there, and I'd known him forever.
Okay.
And I don't know if you guys remember Brandon Barnett, but he was from Texarkana, and he was, we were buddies, we're close in age. And I was on the phone with him, and I said, "Where you at?" And he said, "I'm at the stadium." I was like, "Well, who's around you?" And he's like, "Well, Coach Allen's right here, and Coach Horton's right here." And so he gave him the phone, started talking to him. So I still got 15 hours in the car. So I talked to them for a little bit. I'm still driving or whatever. And they called me back and they said, "We just talked to Coach Petrino. He wants you to come to the Hill on your way home." I was like, okay. So I called my parents and I'm talking to them. And, after everything that had happened in Atlanta, they were a little skeptical. They wanted to fill it out. So they met me in Fayetteville. And so after that, obviously I'd seen the facilities forever. I knew the facilities. I just wanted to see the offense. I wanted to see the person, who he was bringing with him. And we sat there for 30 minutes and just in the team meeting room, he was showing me his offense. And then after 5 minutes, I looked at my dad and I was like, he said the same thing. He was like, "Yep, that's what this is for you right here." And I was like, "Yep."
Man.
So it was pretty much, because before that, I was supposed to go visit Alabama, A&M, and Tennessee. So that's where I'd originally set up visits to after I was leaving. Tennessee, just because my offensive coordinator from Michigan was supposed to get the job there. So that's the only reason I was thinking about that, because I was familiar with the offense. And then this is just when Saban is getting to Alabama, and he'd been coaching the offense. My goal was to play in the NFL. And then I don't even remember who was at A&M at the time, because that wasn't even. I mean, that was just a maybe.
Was it Mike?
I think
Sherman,
it was
maybe?
Mike Sherman.
I
think
know.
It was Mike Sherman. I do think it was.
And he probably had a pro-style offense he was ready to sell you on, saying, "Hey, I can," because he was an NFL guy too. That would make sense. So I have something I heard Coach Petrino say about you that I kind of want to hear your take on, but there was something else when you were talking. Oh, when he was showing you the film, was it from Louisville? Was it Brom? Like, was there a certain specific reel he was showing you that you were like, "Oh, okay"?
Well, I mean, it was Louisville film, with Brom, and he was showing it to me. And he was explaining, okay, if we're running an option route right here, and he's on this lever, just got to go that way. If he's on, that way, and I was like, okay, so we're not just stuck, in a route. We actually can run up in the Big Ten, there wasn't a lot of that, There was a lot of play action. There wasn't a lot of shotgun. And so it was just something that I was just like, yeah, I like this. And then we just kept adding on to that afterwards, with the pistol stuff we brought with Coach K when he came from nobody. We added a lot of that stuff too, which I really liked, because it gets you an extra half a second or two, when you're in the pistol doing play action, especially when you run the ball out of the pistol. And so it was just, I couldn't ask for a better style of offense to play in.
Well, okay, so that sets this up. So I had heard, and you've probably heard this too, and I can't remember, it may have been in Little Rock or somewhere where he was talking, and it was mostly about his first year at Arkansas. And it wasn't just a god-awful year like we've seen here in recent history, but relative to what the expectation was at the time, it wasn't a good year. The team missed a bowl. You weren't eligible, It wasn't today's landscape where it's just a free-for-all.
There's no portal.
It wasn't that kind of deal. So you're having a red shirt. You're sitting out a year. And he talked about, I guess, the Sunday practices or workouts they used to have. Okay, so he said that usually it's something he would not make like all his coaches go to. I think it's something that he would just let the GAs run. But because Ryan Mallett was there, he wanted everybody to see, okay, even though we're having a down year, this is what we have to look forward to. Like, what were those? Like, what were those practice?
Like, they were scrimmages.
Is that obviously?
They were scrimmages.
Okay.
So if you didn't play,
with who?
If you didn't play a lot on Saturday, like if you didn't play more than like 25 reps, you were in, and if you didn't play at all, you were in. So that was your game for the week. Now I think some of that had to come up with because I was not real happy at the time because because the transfer. Well, I applied for immediate eligibility for multiple reasons.
Okay.
It wasn't the coaching thing; it was just multiple reasons, and it got denied. And so I'm just sitting there, and I went into his office one day. I was like, "Coach, man, like I know I can't play this year, but I got to have something. Like, like I got to be able to do something. Like this is, it's driving me nuts. I ain't ever set out ever, never not played.
Yeah,
and that's just something.
Right.
Just, I don't know. And so he's like, okay. So I think it was like maybe 2 weeks after that, like he had set it up. I mean, it was basically like a game. There would be two teams. They would kind of split it up. And go at it. Like the coaches be calling plays from the sidelines, and that was my game. So,
yeah,
I guess just up in there just showing out,
going crazy. It kept me from going crazy.
Helps you stay engaged and all that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, getting with Coach Petrino, I'm curious, and I want to make sure I am clear, like the vantage point I'm asking this question from, because you were a fiery competitor. He was a fiery competitor. I mean, or you both are. And so when I ask this question, I don't mean it in like a disrespectful, undermining kind of way. I mean it in a competitor kind of way. Do you ever remember a time when you and him like really butt heads on something? And again, not in a disrespectful kind of,
all the time.
Like you're trying to undermine.
All the time.
Every day.
No, not every day.
Give me an example of.
Not every day. I got the perfect example.
Give me an.
I got you.
Come on.
Mississippi State in Little Rock. The first year I got to play. Okay. Mississippi State's bringing double-edge pressure, and we have a naked on, which, fake a handoff, roll out. Well, you don't really want to run a naked with the blitzer off the open side. Well, I left it on because we were in the red zone. I was like, I'm going to get this ball out. Fake the handoff. Guy in the flat's not open. I find Jay Wright in the back of the end zone, throw a touchdown. I get to the sideline, and I'm just getting absolutely dog cussed. And I go to the bench. I remember seeing this on TV because it shows it just after. I go to the bench. I grab my helmet, and I went to pull it up because I was mad. And, my fingernail caught my nose. So I had, a piece of skin that was not there no more. So I got the trainer over there giving me second skin. I got Petrino right here just getting me. You know what I mean? Just get me. And there's the TV camera right there. I'm like, that was great. That's awesome.
Obviously, you and Petrino had a great thing going. I mean, you clashed, but you also, what I think people don't see as much because it doesn't get as much press, is how much y'all were on the same page, it seemed like.
No doubt.
And
I think it's because we spent way too much time together. I think that's why we used to get mad at each other all the time. Because we'd have talked about something and he would have forgot what he told me, or I would have did something and he didn't want, and it would just, it was a player coach relationship. It wasn't ever, I was never disrespectful to him. We might have had words every once in a while, but it was because,
Sure.
It wasn't ever really just out in front of everybody. Most of the time it's behind closed doors and we talk it out,
Right. And then you had was Coach Garrick McGee.
Yeah.
I mean, he was and I mean, because I feel like you advocated for him at one point in time, and when were you and him y'all were pretty close as well, right?
Yeah.
What would talk about your relationship with him?
Well, first of all, he was the mediator, so he made sure everybody got calm. Once it was time to get calm, he calmed everybody down. There's just something about the way he could talk to you, and he knew how to do it. Without trying to, he wasn't trying to show you up. He would just come over to me, pat me on the back, and say, "Hey, man, come here. Let me talk to you for a second." I mean, just like that. And then we'd talk, and he's like, "Don't do that," or I understand, but just let it go, And I was like, "All right, okay, fine," because he knew, he was like, "Man, he's not even gonna remember that when he gets up there," And I was like, "Okay." But yeah, I did advocate for him, after, before Bielema came in.
Another thing on Petrino, and I think actually maybe in Jarius Wright that I heard say this, that every week as an offensive unit, like y'all knew we've got 14 points just on scheme alone.
Oh, no doubt.
Like
all you had to do is
whatever,
execute.
or game plan.
All you had to do is execute.
Yeah.
If we didn't score in the first, really the goal was to score on the first drive, but we didn't want it to last longer than 4 or 5 plays. We were just trying to score early, get it, get up on the board. And the second drive, it was the same thing. Go for the jugular, try to score as fast as you can,
I mean, when y'all were running that wheel route against Bama,
they busted now.
Was that one? That's true. So you may not have known this was going to be a money play until talk me through that.
Well, the way our formation was into the boundary. We had 2 receivers close to their sideline and 1 receiver out to the field, and DJ was lined up at tight end. And so there's not a lot of times the running back's going to run a wheel to the field. Now, if that linebacker would have played it right and took the wheel, Jarius was coming underneath anyway, and he would have scored. So they were kind of in a catch-22 right there.
Yeah.
It really didn't matter.
Just pick your poison. Well, do you think running a wheel to the field is because of the arm you have? Is that, did that have a lot to do with it?
Well, I don't know. That's not a tough throw. I mean, it's just, I think we thought a thing, like we used to game plan where, okay, they're not going to think we're going to do that, because there's things that just a lot of coaches just won't do, and so I think we were pretty abstract in our thinking and how we designed our game plan. And I think that helped our offense because you didn't get bored in that offense. Like, there were certain guys that had their certain plays every game. Like Jarius had like a 12-play, get the ball to 4 on the play sheet, Like, we need to get the first down or something. Let's get the ball to 4. It's just what it was.
So what would you just say kind of to encapsulate your time at Arkansas? And Toby, if you have anything after this, I'm done with Arkansas questions. If you think of anything, I just want to know what are just some of the, 1 or 2 special moments, could be on the field, off the field, that again, kind of like at Michigan, that like you're going to really remember and treasure as you reflect on your playing days.
Man, I just the relationships with teammates, I still talk to a lot of my guys, we're still close with a lot of them, especially my age and the younger guys, because those guys that were older, they were part of a different regime. And so that was kind of not a clash, but the mindsets were different. I will say that the mindsets were totally different because the way that Patrino and them recruited, it was a lot more like, we want some dogs now. Now there was some dogs before, no doubt, but I don't know. I just think the killer instinct, the killer mentality was a lot different. And that's how we got Joe Adams to decommit from USC. That's how we got Child. That's how we got Jarius. They could have went anywhere in the country. It's just something like that. But I mean, obviously LSU and Little Rock will always be one. They're playing Pour Some Sugar on Me, and you're picking up sugar packets as you walk off the field. That was pretty cool. There's just so many. There's so many plays. Like this, the third play of Alabama or second play of Alabama game. I had never heard Razorback Stadium that loud, and I've been going there since I was a kid. I just never heard. The hair on the back of my neck was standing up. So it was just, and it continued after the touchdown though. It wasn't just during the touchdown. Like, it continued in the kickoff, continued when we were on defense. Like, it was just nonstop. It was just something special to be a part of.
Yeah. Or what about, man, that game at Georgia? I think the same season we're talking about. That there was some special moments in that game too. You hit that one. In fact, we were just talking about that on a prior episode. I think I said Williams, but I think it was actually Greg that you hit on that play action. Yeah. And then the walk off freaking Childs. I still remember watching that game like it was yesterday. What happened on that play?
Well, we ran the same play, the play right before. And I knew the corner saw me give the signal because he was looking right at me. So I give the signal again, and I threw the out route to DJ the play before that. So I made sure the corner saw the signal, and that once the ball was snapped, he was acting like he wasn't looking at me. And then, you know, I took my drop, and I just knew it. Like he was coming off on the DJ, and he trapped DJ, and I just, you know, threw it in the hole, and then Childs made the safety miss, and it was Childs, please. That was the way to start our season, especially after that whole Alabama game, you know, because I think we dropped a little bit in the standings. I mean, obviously, which I think we dropped a little more than we should have because of how we played them. But,
sure,
you know, to come back and play an 11:30 game, you know, in Georgia, and it's 98 degrees, it's hot, you know, and just the way we responded, I think it tells you a lot about that team. That team was special.
Set the course for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So I remember back to when the press announcement broke that Ryan Mallett, the prodigal son, was returning home to Arkansas as sort of the saving grace of what was to come. And I, you know, Ryan knew from Coach Calvin Mallett, who had a long tenure in Yellville as head coach, and so. Just coming home, like when you finally made that decision, like you said, and you decided there's got to be a sense of pride being growing up around this program, that it meant possibly a little more. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what did it mean to come home and to kind of be that saving grace potentially?
Well, I mean, it's just a dream come true. I mean, anytime you could put that helmet on, you know, like Coach Nutt used to say, there's only one hog helmet in the country. Only one team gets to put that on. Like, I never forgot that just because, I mean, that's what I grew up doing, man, watching the Hogs, you know, watching Sterner, watching Matt Jones, watching McFadden, you know, all those guys. There's so many you can name. And just watching those guys when I was a kid growing up, it's like, I want to be like that one day. So it was definitely emotional. You know, I pulled on the campus. I was just sitting out, you know, in the pit. I guess that it's the pit still there, you know, the parking lot, but there, you know, before the suites and stuff, and you can see the field. And I was just sitting there like, yeah, I'm here.
Right.
Thank
goodness you were.
Yeah, seriously. Thank God. Did you attend the Miracle on Markham, the Matt Jones to DeCorey Birmingham at War Memorial?
I did not get to do that. That's obviously it was Thanksgiving that weekend, or around that weekend,
right.
I believe. So I was in Searcy at my grandma's house, but I don't think I was there. We were watching it on TV.
So your boy Toby over there, we were at that game, and when that play happened, first off, Toby used to have like a full blown like fro. I'm talking. I mean, no joke. His curls were out, and they hit that play, and I look over, and you know, I'm a young high school student, and I see Toby with his shirt off, just flinging it around helicopter style, right there, and whatever. We were in the opposite end zone of where the touchdown happened. I don't remember if it's which one that is, but man, he was going crazy. His fro was flying, and I think for me that was like my moment of, okay, I will never bleed anything other than Razorback red for the rest of my life.
I'm pretty sure that was in the south end zone. So you guys were in the north end zone. I'm pretty sure. But so the guy that caught
that's it.
You know, you remember who caught it? Do you remember who?
DeCorey Birmingham?
There you go. You know where he's from? Right outside of Texarkana. So when I was a kid in 7th grade and 6th grade, I was at a little school called Hooks, Texas. So we moved down there for my dad to get a job. So this is like a little 3A school. It's where Billy Sims went to high school, okay? Well, DeCorey Birmingham was in our conference. So I knew about DeCorey Birmingham in high school. And then he went to the Hogs. I was like, okay. Because I saw him run to high school. I was like, holy cow. Couldn't nobody tackle him. You know, it was crazy.
No.
I remember one, he just high stepped over somebody in the end zone. I was like, man, that's an athlete right there, you know. And then he went to the Hogs. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was like my little, you know, so.
Oh yeah, you had a personal connection. Yeah. No, man, that was a special moment. But okay, so let's move on. I really only have probably one or two NFL type questions, and then we can get to some stuff like right now. But the thing I want to ask you, I mean, hey, we call it Razorback Therapy. We got a nice conversation flowing here. But the 2011 NFL Draft, and I'm going to set this question up because I personally, as a fan, feel like you couldn't have been more wronged in how that draft played out. And I know if I were to have been in your shoes, that probably would have had a crazy mental toll on me. And let me preface for the fans listening what I mean. 2 quarterbacks in that draft went top 10. In fact, I think one of them went top 10 and the other one went top 12.
13.
And if you look at what those guys, was it 13?
Sure it's 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one was like 8, one was 13, wherever. I'm not going to say their names. If you want to know, go Google it. If you look at what they did in college and the competition they played against, and you compare it to what Ryan did at Arkansas, it doesn't even hold a candle. And I'm saying that because that's something you can't, I mean, you could say it, but you stand nothing to gain from saying that. So I'm going to say it because it's a fact. If you look at the numbers, if you look at the film, and if you look at the competition of who they were playing against versus who he was playing against, because here's what people I think might forget. SEC is still king. But back in that era, the SEC West was in a league of its own. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it still isn't with Bama, but Georgia was not the same Georgia as it is now. Mm-hmm. There was Florida, but I'm just saying the SEC West in 2010, 9, 10, 11, that era of time, it was in a league of its own. And you're playing against future first-round NFL talents week in and week out, putting up numbers, getting wins, making history at a university that's doing things that the media and national world would say they aren't supposed to be doing. And SEC Arkansas is not supposed to be in the Sugar Bowl. Well, Mallett got us there. And then you look at these other 2 guys, and I don't want to diminish what they did or what they didn't do. But if you look at the conferences they played in, you look at their wins, you look at their numbers, you cannot convince me that Ryan should not have either A, been drafted before both of them, or at least not drafted in the first round. And I think the reason why that's so significant is because when you go top 10, you're guaranteed to get an opportunity. You know you're going to get an opportunity. It may not be your rookie year, but you know you're going to get one. Whereas if you get drafted in the second, third, and then you get drafted by the team that the GOAT is playing for, like, you're not going to get that opportunity unless something outside of the plan happens. And so I needed to get that out. That's my therapy, because I mean, as a fan, no, you got to understand, like, I'm a Mallett guy, like, just talking as a fan, I always was. And that really bothered me how that played out. And I'm just curious from your perspective. We know what it was. It was the politics. It was the business of the NFL. I mean, because the film speaks for itself. The stats speak for itself. The competition speaks for itself. So I don't know if it's lazy scouts relying on national pundits. I don't know if it's agents doing whatever they do. I'm not going to ask you to get into any of that because that's not important. It's the past. What can you do about it? I'm just curious, how did you process that, how all that played out?
Well, it definitely, especially once I got drafted where I did, I'm like, I'll be sitting for a while now, because he's right in the middle of his,
right.
He's killing it, which that's a catch-22 because I also learned, probably 10 times more what I would have learned at these other teams that I went to at the time, because that was the model.
Absolutely.
That was the model. That's what everybody was chasing. And then, I took a lot of things from those coaches and from those players, and especially when it comes to like game planning, what you're looking for when you're watching film. It's a college is one thing. When you get up there and you're sitting in the room with 12 and McDaniels and Bill, and you're sitting there watching film and you're seeing how they're talking, because I didn't say much. I just listened. I'm a rookie. I'm not going to say anything. I don't know nothing. And that's how you're supposed to walk in there too. You don't know anything, just listen. And so that's what I did. And I mean, I learned a lot, and by the end of my rookie year, like I was good with the system, so I had that down. It took me a while into training camp. That was lockout year, so we didn't get the OTAs in the spring. We didn't get rookie mini camp. Not to say that's an excuse, but like it's I didn't sign my deal until like 4 or 5 days into camp, so I'm already behind. I'm already behind. So and I was the third guy that year, which is fine because if you'd have put me out there after I hadn't been that like learning for that long, the offense, like it would not have been good. It'd have been really bad, I think. But the other side of that is I always got better game reps. Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I always get better filling out the speed of the game. And yeah, I might have taken some lumps my rookie year, but I would have learned so much during that rookie year that, I was going to be able to process so much stuff going into the second year faster. Um, so
Right.
that's probably the catch-22 part of it. And as a competitor, you want to play, but you can't say nothing. You can go out there and practice as hard as you can every day. It doesn't matter. And that's what I did
Right.
for the scout team. Like, I was trying to help our defense get better, but when
Mm.
12's on the field and 12's on your team, like, there's only one way you're going in the game, and that's not something you want to see happen to a teammate, like, especially somebody like him. When I came in, he treated me like I've been there for, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, there was the little rookie stuff, haircuts and all that, but, like, he really, like, kind of took me under his wing, and, if I had a question, I'd ask him, I think I'll give you one story about him, though. One story, okay? This is how I know. This is how I know that dude right there is the most competitive dude I've ever met, okay? So in the locker room, that we'd have like little games. There's little games you play in free time, especially during training camp. Well, I think we're about to go to a quarterback meeting. He's like, Maldog, pitch me one, because we had a wiffle ball in there, okay? And he's a lefty, so first 3 pitches, I just blew him by him. It wasn't no soft toss, right? And he got drafted to play baseball. He's like, all right, 1 out. I was like, we only play 1 out. And so he made me pitch to him until he hit it, and I never got 3 outs on it. But, like, that dude would not let you walk out of anywhere unless he won. It just wasn't going to happen. You're going to play as many times as it took. You didn't care.
So with that, I talked to a guy, Vincent Valentine. He played for the Patriots years after the time we're talking about, but it was when Brady was there. It was, I think, 2016, 2017. And he said that Brady and Bill had a very, he's like Belichick. He told a story that Belichick ripped Tom in front of the entire team. And
definitely.
And this was when Brady was like at the peak, right?
It didn't matter.
And
it happened when I was there too.
Yeah.
Oh, it happened when I was there.
Yeah, I was wondering, did anything
within the first week, it was during training camp. Tom, what are we doing? Just one of those, and just goes off on a tangent. But I'm sure that's like the 16th year in a row that it happened to Tom, especially after he'd won like 3 Super Bowls. Like, he wasn't getting. There was no way he was getting away from it either. He knew it, and that, he didn't take it. He took it with a grain of salt. Like, he knew it was coming anyway. So. But he wasn't. It didn't matter who you were, what your position was. If Bill saw something that he didn't like, he's gonna point it out.
How do you feel like playing under a guy like Belichick, playing under a guy like Coach Petrino, being in the same room with, like you said, 12 and McDaniel, like Tom Brady? Like, how have you taken sort of the different nuggets and information that you learned from them over the years and sort of formulated your own philosophy now as a coach?
Yeah, first of all, there's plays that we've run that I like, especially being a high school coach. They're pretty simple, like we're not going to run like the Patriots offense, it's not like that. But there's little simple things
right.
that you need a completion. Let's run it, just little things like that. And then as far as the aggressive part of it, that depends on your philosophy as a coach. And then I've been part of kind of both of those, like Petrino will go for it at any time, basically, Now Bill, he was more, Bill was going to play the percentages more, unless he felt like, hey, we're wearing them down. It's 4th and 1, the run game. Let's just stuff it down their throat, so, it's not just about the scheme. It's also about the feel of the game, how the game's flowing. How's the momentum going, because that's a real thing.
Do you still keep in touch with any of those guys? I guess the one mainly would be probably Coach Petrino. Do y'all still talk to this day?
Well,
what's that like?
I saw him at the coaches clinic in Hot Springs this spring. I went up and talked to him. I try not to listen. Those guys are busy. Like, I still got friends that play in the NFL, and I don't I hardly ever bother them. If they want to say holler at me or something, that's fine. But I know they're busy because I've done it. I know what it's like. Your phone ringing 24/7. You just want it to stop. So I don't try to.
Yeah,
I try to kind of stay out of the way for those guys because I know how mentally frustrating some of those things can be.
So now, being the new head coach at Whitehall, what do you think for the parents that have not met you, the conference foes you're going to play against? Like, what does Ryan Mallett as a head coach look like? What is that like?
Well, there's a few different ways to look at that. As far as coaching my kids, I'm gonna coach them hard. Okay, I'm not gonna babysit. We're gonna do what we're supposed to do. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, we're gonna do it again. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, we're going to do it again. But we might raise our voice a little bit louder this time and say, "This is what I'm telling you to do. Listen to me." But I think I've set myself up, I think, with just a really, really good staff that right now I'm just kind of managing a few things and letting them, till we get to August, I'm kind of letting them do their thing with the positions and with my offensive coordinator who we've talked about earlier on this show, letting him kind of do his thing, letting him get his feet wet. It's his first year coaching. So
who is that?
Jarius Wright.
Yeah, Jarius
That's
is
your
his
OC?
OC, man. Yeah, they back together. Watch out. He ain't going to make it easy for anybody else in Arkansas this year.
I'm about to say, I need some tickets. That's what I'm saying. I want some tickets to that.
We're young, man. We're young. We lost 27 seniors off a team that went to the state finals, and played PA in the finals, and I didn't pull it out. But you lose 27 seniors off any team, it's not going to be the same. So,
oh yeah,
I'm not going to say we're rebuilding, but we definitely got a ways to go to get to where eventually we want to be. Now, I also think with that many young guys that as we got, that's for the future. It's good for us. We're getting them when they're young. They're learning our system from ninth grade or seventh grade on. But as far as those guys that are in ninth grade, they're going to be sophomores. Now they're getting at the next 3 years. Anytime you play in a system that long, it becomes second nature.
Do you and Coach Wright, do Coach Mallett and Coach Wright have the same chemistry as the players Ryan Mallett and Jarius Wright have?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, we're on the same page, and it's just like, Jarius will tell you the same thing. He learned so much about how to, about an offense in college and into the league. We've run the same offenses basically for the last 10 years. So we're kind of on the same page. And I'll go over there and say, like, "Hey, Jay, what do you think about that? Did you see that?" He's like, "Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to get it when he gets back. I'm going to let him know. Like, I'm going to teach him what he needs to know." I was like, "I was making sure you saw it," because sometimes it's a different visual when you're stepping back and looking at it, because he might be looking at this side of the field, like in 7-on-7, and I'm looking at this side. So, on the field, I can go talk to him and say, "Hey, did you see this?" But, if he didn't, we go watch the film. He goes, "Oh, that's what you're talking about?" He's like, "We'll get that fixed." So it's one of those things. Now, Jarius, he's not quite as loud as me. Like, I don't know if you can tell, my voice is kind of gone. It was our first day back from dead week, and, this morning was a grind. So I've already started losing my voice. So I hope I can make it till Thursday.
Hey, I'll tell you what, though. I'll bet coming to watch your squad play, I don't care what the score is, I bet the downfield blocking by y'all's receivers will be the best in the state.
Hey, there's no doubt. There's no doubt, man. We got the best coach to do it, the best coach to teach them. I promise you that. I've never seen a guy catch up to the ball runner from across the field and then lay somebody out. I mean, you can't say enough about that dude. He was Mr. Clutch. He was there, always there where he's supposed to be. He was there on time when he was supposed to be there. Like, I don't think he ever had a drop in college. Not that I remember. Not while I was there.
Yeah. Well, and then I'm thinking of that play before half, the LSU game. He's the one. Obviously,
he's down the field blocking. He had a comeback on that play.
Kobe Hamilton. Yeah. I was trying to say, I'm trying to think of the guy who caught the ball. Kobe Hamilton. Yeah. He was the one that helped it pop.
Right.
Y'all don't score that play without his downfield block. But, okay, I've got just one more question. And then, Toby, ask whatever you may have. And then if there's anything you want to promote, Coach, just with anything you got coming up. I know this is like camp season. So if there's anything in that nature you want to talk about, we'll give you that time to do so. But what would you say is your goal with your coaching career? Like what, obviously winning a state championship and things like that, but I'm talking advancement wise. Are you where you want to be? Do you see yourself at the college level? Do you see yourself on the hill one day? Like what would you say is your big picture?
Well,
dream
right now I haven't looked too far past this year. I think I have the skill set to do that in the future if I wanted to. It just kind of depends. It has to be the right situation. I really like where I'm at right now. The community is amazing. We got so much support. Everybody that I've met at school so far, because I've been between the middle school and the high school, kind of in between once I got here right before spring break. So everybody I've met's been, it's been good. Now, if we don't win the games, that might change. So we'll see. But, so far everything's been really good. Everybody's been, just ask any questions I ask the administration, because being a new head coach, you might not know all that stuff. I haven't coached forever. I only coached 2 years. This will be my third year coaching, but like experience wise, as far as football, yeah, I got that. But there's administrative things that I'm still learning on the fly. Which I mean, it's not bad. I love it. I love being a head coach, and so we'll see. I don't know I don't know what the future holds.
Hey, good answer. I like the way you worded all that. That was like you're already a great head coach, man. Like you answered that question perfect.
It's the Belichick School of Press.
Best. You talked about your first 2 years of experience under Coach Steve Airy, who is also in the Missouri High School Coaching Hall of Fame already. So you had kind of a good base from a high school coach perspective. And you guys turned things around relatively quickly in Mountain Home.
Yeah. I mean a lot of that's with him, though. He came in and, I don't know exactly what the culture was before, but I just know when Coach Airy got there, he was like, this ain't flying. He's like, this ain't flying. We're gonna change some things up. We're gonna get some kids tough. He got them into shape. He came in I think February, I think if that's right. And then by the time we got August, I mean, we had our linemen, every one of our linemen had shaved off like 10, 15 pounds of unneeded excess weight, and they were ready to go. And we had kids that busted their butts in the weight room. And I think anybody that ever met Steve Airy probably run through a brick wall for him. I'll tell you that. I wish I could have played for him, man. I love that dude.
Well, we sure miss you, man.
Oh, yeah, I miss him, man.
Well, look, man, you've been more than gracious for us. We so appreciate your time. I mean, almost chopping it up with us for an hour. I mean, shoot, maybe we can get you back, for a follow-up at some point later in the, after the season, whatever. But what do you got now? Like anything you want to put out there, if it's the Whitehall community listening or people in the state? I mean, is there anything you want to bring some awareness to or promote or anything like that?
Go Hogs and go Dogs. That's about it. That's about it, man. Like,
all right,
man.
A lot
of people do a lot of talking. We, like Coach Petrino said, carry a big stick and speak softly.